As you guys know from the previous 2 videos on the channel, which you should go and watch if you haven't watched, we were recently at the RennSport Summit in Munich, Germany, to try a early alpha version of the RennSport Simulator, which competition company are aiming to be a fully fledged racing simulator, esport platform, and attempt to somewhat take over the entirety of sim racing. Now, in the last video, we gave our very honest first impressions of the sim, with us driving generally somewhat properly. However, subsequent to making that video, whilst at the event, it occurred to me that, you know what, all the people there are probably going to be trying to drive quickly and driving properly, and then recording footage of them driving quickly and driving properly, what with them being probably talented people and esports drivers. And I thought, hang on, if anyone is uniquely qualified to drive badly and really show off what the cars handle like when driven badly, that would be me. So we jumped back onto one of the recording rigs when nobody was looking. They were looking, there was a cameraman there, but let's pretend whilst no one was looking, and I decided to just welly the car around the track and try and achieve the first ever RennSport drift, at least outside of the development team. If I was a sim developer, I'd be just drifting everything. You wouldn't be able to stop me. But really, the point of it wasn't to actually do a drift. You know, obviously that's ridiculous. It's a GT3 car, ABS, traction control. We've got no access to any of the settings, brake bias, you know, anything. No access to anything. So obviously doing a drift is kind of stupid. The point of this, though, is that it's really interesting to actually see the dynamics of the vehicle when you really throw it into a slide, and how the car slides, how much control you have whilst the car is sliding, and in what ways can you pull the car out of the slide, or can you actually hold the slide and choose when to pull the car out of the slide, if the car slides as a whole, or if just the back goes, or if just the front goes. You know, just getting an idea of the general dynamics of the tyre model, at least with this specific car setup. And again, worth reiterating for the millionth time, this was an alpha, and who knows what's going to change in the future. But with that said, I was actually really pleasantly surprised with the handling of the vehicle while I was driving around like a buffoon. Specifically, the fact that we were able to actually hold specific angles of slide, like willfully. It wasn't like, oh, we're in a power slide and I've just got to wait for the tyres to re-grip in, which is something that can happen in a lot of current simulators on the market. Not all of them do it, but some of them do. And it wasn't just a case that we were completely set on a specific trajectory. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that RennSport has some kind of mind-blowing force feedback and physics that's unrivaled on the industry, but I think it is really worth saying that, to me, it felt definitely much more in the sort of race room, Assetto, AMS2 direction, as opposed to the iRacing direction of physics philosophy. And I've always been of this sort of school of thought where, regardless of what's realistic and unrealistic, if you're in a race or driving a race car in a video game, or even if you're driving a car in real life, but let's say you're driving a car in a video game, if you've got that ply at the limit that you can actually play with, then that gives you more options. It means you can do more creative overtakes, or if you happen to do something stupid, it's not as likely to be race over. You can use balancing and control skill to recover the mistake. Yeah, you'll have lost some lap time, but you won't have just gone wildly out of control off the track, or wildly out of control into another vehicle on the track. Basically, it just produces better racing and better driving and more depth, more to play with. At the end of the day, driving simulators are effectively just physics toys. So this is why I look for these kind of physics dynamics in a sim. Yeah, I'd like it to also be realistic, but all driving simulators are going to be completely different from reality by virtue of you not being in a real car anyway. So I'd like them to be realistic, but that's kind of secondary to them actually being fun. Shocking opinion from someone that likes driving sims. Now, I do feel like I have been a bit too positive with my words about RennSport's handling, and being British, one cannot be too positive. If you're positive for more than 10 minutes, the Queen comes round and pours boiling water on your head. So, negativity, and what I became more aware of as we were doing this lunatic driving, is that, again, when you're braking this, the force feedback was not good for braking in a straight line. You really couldn't feel any force feedback for braking in a straight line. Maybe that's because the brake bars were so far forwards that it wasn't putting weight on the rear at all. But also it didn't really have sort of that track texture vibrational type of force feedback, that sort of more high frequency force feedback, or that tyre carcass vibration type of force feedback, if that makes sense. I'm not the biggest fan of that type of force feedback because it doesn't really help you balance the vehicle, but it's certainly a type of force feedback that really does add a lot of immersion, and it's definitely a very good type of force feedback for the lower end wheels on the market, like T300s and G25s. I say lower end wheels, they're still bloody fantastic piece of equipment. Don't worry if those are the wheels you've got and you're going to be playing any driving sim. But you know, they are lower end wheels compared to direct drive servo motors and what have you. So yeah, it'd be really nice for them to have some more vibrational effects for lower end wheels, track texture maybe, curbing type feel through the steering wheel, and then for the higher end wheels, and this was also feel, you can feel this on like a T300 for example, those somewhat subtle actual tyre carcass flex and vibration that you get if you're massively pushing through understeer, or if you're really locking up wheels going into a braking zone, or ABS is activated. There's certain vibrations that you feel through a wheel in a literal sense. I'm not talking about in an abstract sense. Like literally you will feel this through the whole car if ABS is really kicking in aggressively, and you'll certainly feel it through a steering wheel. So I think they could definitely do quite a bit to really pump up the force feedback and just make it maybe more in line with what you expect from something like R Factor 2, and especially sims like the original Assetto Corsa, which the original Assetto Corsa is phenomenal on high-end equipment and really good on low-end equipment, and I wish more developers use that as a general benchmark. It really nails giving you what you need to drive from, but also immersive details, and it doesn't really matter what wheel you use to play it with. First AC, bloody cracking. But that said, you know, if they literally released, like if this car came out now, you know, as a public release, and they had an online ranked system with this game, with this car, no other setting change, it was literally what I played and it was online ranked racing, I would actually have a really good time with it. I'd say what I've just said now in terms of how it could be better, or how I think it could be better, but it would still be perfectly drivable and very compelling to drive. Now, during the Q&A for this game, it's really good news that they said that it's not going to be just another GT3 simulator. Praise the Lord, thank God for that. But it's kind of a shame for an event like this that it is GT3 cars, because GT3 cars are quite muted vehicles in every simulator you play them in, relative to, you know, like an F4 car or a Radical, or, you know, a proper track day vehicle that's really tight. You know, a GT3 car is relatively muted, so it's not the best of vehicles to sort of really get a deep insight into a simulator's physics outside of that specific, how that specific car is. But yeah, when it comes to RennSport, I have to say, when they first launched the website and I read through it, I was kind of like, well, I was kind of like, okay, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going to put it to one side. It wasn't really, in my mind, I wasn't, after reading the website, thinking, oh, hang on, this could be something really interesting. Now, having actually played it and also listened to what the developers are and the publisher is looking to actually do with this game, or simulator, or whatever you want to call it, it is actually really quite interesting. And partly in that it could go in either or either direction. it could end up being really good. You know, if they get the netcode right, if they get the ranking right, if they get all the details right, it could end up being absolutely awesome. Like properly the biggest sim game we've ever seen up to now. Though, you know, if they get the sales model wrong, if there's netcode issues, if they don't do online ranking properly, or who knows what other issues could arise, because games development is just a never-ending hell pit, and sim development could just keep throwing up surprises. Who knows, it could just be a complete disaster. So we're just going to have to wait and see, but I think that's really exciting. It's been a bit calm on the sim racing seas recently. It's been the same sims floating around for the most part. To have a new, completely new, as far as I'm aware, you know, it's their own physics engine. Unreal 5's a new graphics engine, and then their absolutely mental esports plans. Now, I personally, I'm not an esports driver, obviously, so I'm not that passionate about certain components of esport as a player myself. But obviously, I can certainly see the business component of esport. I can certainly see the appeal for people that are actually good at driving simulators, and I can also see that if done properly, if you integrate the competition components into these driving simulators properly, then that actually can filter to players like myself. Good examples, perhaps not necessarily in the sim racing world, but the difference in, if you compare Rocket League to supersonic battle cars, like Rocket League was clearly designed with esports in mind, even though it's very much the same as the original game on the PlayStation 3. The esports ranking component and everything else that went with that really elevated the game and actually ended up contributing to its massive popularity. Same with Counter-Strike as well. Obviously, Counter-Strike always accidentally had the esports scene with the original Counter-Strikes, but with CSGO, the whole matchmaking being integrated into it, and then the sort of feeding into the esports, and then the hype that you get from big esports events for the games, and how that then elevates a game and years on keeps a game alive and people interested in it, which again filters back to the more sort of casual, more sort of drive players, in that the game's continually getting development, continually getting content, and always being made sharper for everybody that uses it. And then of course, for me, in a very unique situation, as a content creator, obviously a popular game and the esports thing helps content creators. That's such a stupid word. People that film video games and talk rubbish is probably a better word. But also as someone that likes to do commentary as well, that esports component is great. There you go. So it's just interesting. This has massive potential that we can't know until more stuff comes out, until the closed beta and then the open beta and then the actual release of the game. Sometime, I think, was in 2023 or 2024 for the actual public release. Now I'm going to leave it to you in the comment section to decide whether or not we achieved a drift. Slides, somewhat controllable that's a drift, surely. If you saw this around Tesco's roundabout, you'd be like, that was a good drift. You can let me know in the comments. Those were my RennSport thoughts. I can't believe that's what we're going with. I'm really interested to see where this goes. But we just have to wait and see. Let me know your RennSport thoughts, oh dear God, in the comment section, and I'll try and follow up with another video where we'll be talking about some of the stuff revealed in the Q&A with the developers. Thank you for watching. Till the next one, click that like button and subscribe, and click that bell for more bold man talking rubbish. Goodbye.